to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Ed, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes, here.
Mr.
Sorry.
Perkovich.
Here.
Mr. Thiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Cicero.
Here.
Snow.
Here. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the last meeting, April 16th.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. We have 3 public hearings this evening. The format we follow for public hearings is we allow the applicant an opportunity to tell us what they want to do at a particular site. Then we ask anybody wishing to speak in favor, given a similar opportunity. Then those wishing to speak against are given an opportunity to speak against. So with that in mind, first public hearing this evening is a conditional use permit to allow a printing company at 8664 Lakeshore Boulevard as a similar use. Is that applicant here? Larry?
Yes, he is. I just have to find him on my list. Mr. Lovett, I know I saw you there. There you are.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We have Mr. Lovett.
Okay, Mr. Lovitz, why don't you tell us what you want to do with that location?
Well, I would like to double up my efforts on the printing company that I have down in Akron. I live about less than a quarter of a mile away, and when that came up available, thought an opportunity to help the community with some of my printing, promotional, mailing, and copy, fax. Just trying to better the community with what I offer.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Larry, do you have anybody wishing to speak against?
I do not see anyone listed as wanting to speak against it or in favor of it on this.
Thanks. We'll close the public portion. Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
I just have one question. The fenced-in area that's immediately to the south, are you doing anything with that?
No, that's prior right now. I have no interest. Maybe I'll park my company truck there if it's there or at my house. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so you won't be storing anything there. You won't be.
Not at this time. I have no plans for that.
Okay. Is it part of your rental agreement? Is that part of what you're renting?
Yes.
Kathy, anything from the city?
Mr. Chairman, nothing other than what was noted in the report in the list of conditions.
Now, you've read the staff report. Do you have any questions on the conditions that are listed there?
I do not.
So you agree with all those?
At this point, yes, I do.
Entertain a motion from the commission.
Motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
Second.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon. Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Second conditional use permit to allow a temporary event, July 4th parade at 9096 Lake Overlook. Is that applicant here, Larry?
I did not see him, but I'll look again. Mr. Parks, if you are a call-in user, can you put your name in the Q&A?
Yes.
According to Mr. Murphy here, he did submit something. I did not receive it, or if I did, I did not catch it, but he's requesting it tabled. Oh, he wants to withdraw?
Yeah.
Hey,
I did see a social media post that they had said they canceled the parade this year.
Okay, well, then that would answer that. No, so I did, we'll find it for the record, but, no, if Mr. Murphy received it, then we should be good.
Okay, so we want to dismiss it?
Yes.
Okay. I entertain a motion to dismiss this.
Motion to dismiss. Second.
Okay.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Haddon,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich,
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Cicero,
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Final conditional use permit is a conditional use permit to allow a medical diagnostic lab at 7956 Tyler Boulevard.
I just brought the two applicants in, and I'm going to bring Rick Osborne in. And I see that the one neighbor speaking against it's there, but
No, it says for you to go for it's not. Where are you?
One talk at a time, please.
Bonnie Morris, are you there? And Wisdom?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes, and we have Rick Osborne Jr.
Where's Mr. Osborne on his phone? Is he the realtor involved?
Yes, he is.
Hey, Larry, go right ahead when you're ready.
Mr. Corey,
Yes.
you can speak now. You can explain what you guys want to do.
We're an independent diagnostic lab testing for bladder cancer testing, genetic testing for DNA level drug metabolism. We're also testing PCR testing, including some infectious diseases such as wounds and nails. I'm a podiatrist by trade. This company's been in existence since 2011 in Twinsburg, Ohio. We decided to the Menor location on the old medical site, the Lake Health Urgent Care, which is a perfect fit for this diagnosis.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against?
Yeah, we have Mr. Eric Walters, and for some reason I can't bring him over.
If anybody can hear me, if you could mute, if you're not speaking, that'll help with the sound. If the applicant could mute.
Okay, now, there you go. Okay, Mr. Walters is over, and I will unmute him. Mr. Walter?
Yes, I'm
Here? Okay.
We were just retained today by Mr. Slodov and KDL Realty. We sent over a FOIA request this afternoon. The reasons that our client have voiced opposition are in the attachment that I sent to Mr. Murphy and to Ms. Mitchell. So we are in opposition at this point for various reasons. I'm trying to get my arms around this, having just been retained. I will have more comments down the road, but I think the reasons Mr. Slodov has in the last meeting, I believe, forwarded something to Mr. Murphy. Did you get that for the March 26th meeting, Mr. Murphy?
I believe we did receive that.
Okay, thank you. And I sent it over again. Those are the reasons. We're also trying to figure out what has been going on with this property over the past several years. So our opposition is put into the record.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Zeman to explain why this needs to have a conditional use permit.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's pursuant to the district regulations, a conditional use permit was required for this medical office use.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or against? Close the public portion. Allow for questions of the administration by the commission members. Kathy, anything you want to add?
No, only other than that this obviously was an urgent care facility. so the diagnostic lab fits in and the proposed use to be able to retrofit with this, with the facility as it's currently designed.
Gotcha. Fellas, are we okay on the comments?
Mr. Chairman? Maybe confirm, with all that feedback, I just want to confirm perhaps just to make sure that what's happened here was audible to members of the public who may have been tuning in by internet connection.
Okay.
Well, how we would do that.
Larry, how you doing down there?
I can hear the feedback is gone now. I would just remind Joe, when you speak, if you could just speak forward towards the mic.
Will do. The question was, during the course of that public hearing, was if a member of the public were just at home, tuning in, as it were they able to hear the discussions and deliberations that took place?
Larry, could you hear him?
I can hear some of them. I do know we have the property owner on asking some questions, and someone just said no, they could not hear.
Okay, let's repeat that then.
Larry, you said Erie Bank is on?
No, the previous owner, Len Slodov.
Okay, so he's not he's not the current owner. Yeah.
Right, and did we close the public? We closed the public portion, correct?
But based on Mr. Zeman's comments, I think we ought to reopen it.
I guess my question is, was that audible on the live stream?
If not, we're going to reopen the public portion.
Okay.
Do we want to?
So if we could have that gentleman speak again, that would be appropriate.
The William, okay, here's William. The feedback's coming from Wisdom. That's where the feedback's at.
William?
Wisdom Corey?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
That's not going to help us if the feedback's coming from yours.
Okay. All right. Is Fonnie Morse? Bonnie?
Bonnie's with us. And I will unmute her now.
Yeah.
Bonnie?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, Bonnie?
Yes?
Okay, Phil, we have the applicant now too.
Okay. So why don't we begin the whole process over? Larry, let's have the applicant tell us what they want to do, and then we'll go to the negative comments.
Okay, Bonnie, you can speak now and explain what you want to do.
My name is Tom Pilmer. I'm associated with Fonnie and Corvallo and Cow.
We're together.
KAO. So she'd like me to speak for her. I prepared the initial letter. Corvallo Labs is a high complexity molecular diagnostic lab serving physicians and facilities in the area, including hospitals and nursing homes and so forth. This is an ideal location for us because it was previously occupied as a medical facility. So we have to do almost no changes to the facility. The exam rooms will be suitable for our diagnostic labs. We may change a couple doorways inside, that's all. We're moving from Twinsburg because this building offers a unique opportunity. It's a good location, and it's well located to serve Northeast Ohio medical facilities. I guess
Okay.
I would take questions.
Thanks. Okay, we'll now entertain anybody wishing to speak against.
Okay, here's Eric.
Yeah, I guess my client also has a bunch of questions that he's put up. Len, would you like to ask anything before I finish up?
Len, you can go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I received the commission's notice about 7956 Tyler Boulevard. KDO Real Estate continues to state on the public record that the actions of this commission have caused harm to 7956 Tyler's property. Damages occurred when 8655 Market Street was spot rezoned from R4 residential to
Well,
restricted.
let me interrupt you there. We're talking about this particular application tonight.
Yes, it's about the suitability that on March 26th it was approved as a dance studio, rec center. A hospital urgent care that was taken to 8655 Market Street, leaving it vacant.
So why did not the dance studio go forward?
I don't understand why this hearing is again being asked about the conditional use permit if it was already granted as a dance studio on March 26th.
Mr. Chairman,
I think,
Rick Osborne is, I believe, online, and he can answer that question.
Yes. Unmuted you.
Yes, hi, Rick Osborne Jr. with KW Commercial representing Erie Bank. We were before this board as Mr. Klodoff has said for a conditional use permit to allow the dance studio. That transaction has been canceled and is not moving forward. In the interim, we have a new buyer that has stepped up. The lab that's before you, and we would like to pursue and go after this particular application, please.
So let me ask you this question. Are those condominiums over there?
Yes.
Okay.
They're
Thanks.
industrial condos, yes.
Commission members, any questions? I assume that that's all the negative comments we're going to get. Is that correct? Anybody else wishing to speak against?
Well, and I would even do, I think mine were audible the last time I did it. We sent over a FOIA request, actually a sunshine law request today.
Okay.
Pertaining the history of this property and any of the comments I made that I believe were audible last time.
Okay, thanks. So, commissioners, any questions?
Just one question. When you fit out your facility, will you have an emergency defibrillator there?
Rick, anybody can answer that question.
I would ask if Tom, if you could answer that question, would be great. Or Fonnie.
Anybody?
So, as I understand, this is not a hospital.
Sorry, had trouble finding the mute button there.
You mute.
So is anybody going to have a defibrillator in there? That's the question.
Oh, we can do that if that's what's required.
Yeah, I think I might like to require that to be a condition.
We'll have the typical, emergency showers, eye washes, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
This is not a hospital use?
No, it's a laboratory.
Do you see patients?
Not at all.
So no public come into the facility at all?
No, sir.
Oh, then maybe it's not necessary. Not necessary, thank you.
Not necessary?
Not necessary.
The defibrillator, you don't want it?
No public to come in.
What zoning would that be? For a laboratory?
Yes.
I think it's currently M2, isn't it, or B2?
M.
No, it's M2.
M2. Yeah, so.
It's all right.
Why don't we leave that in there as if they ever were to see patients, then you'll have it.
No, there's no plan for patients.
So the requested zoning change is from M2 to B?
No,
We're not changing the zoning.
we're not changing the zoning. It's just a conditional use permit under the M2 zoning.
That's correct.
That's correct.
It was a B zoning, as the hospital urgent care.
It never was a B zoning.
Yes, it was.
Mr. Slotoff,
Yes.
the B classification that you are referring to is in reference to the building code, not in reference to the zoning classification. It was on the certificate of occupancy. It has nothing to do with the zoning classification of the property. The property is M2 manufacturing.
Thank you. It says zoning use group B on
Right.
the occupancy.
On the occupancy permit, which has to do with the building code, not the zoning code.
So I entertain a motion from the commission.
To approve with one condition?
Second.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Hadden,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich,
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga, Mr. Cicero,
Yes.
Snow.
Yes. Okay. That's been approved. Old business. Number 5 is tabled at a previous meeting, will remain on the table tonight. Number 4, formal rezoning of 14.5 acres from R4 single family to RVG.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Larry's not on at the moment, so we don't have the ability to grab people. We're just trying to work through that technically. Oh, Abdullah's going to do it, but there are a number of people that are listed with regard to this particular item.
Well, unless we've closed the public portion at a previous meeting, so unless there's new testimony, I don't see any reason to go forward with this testimony.
Would any of these folks be the people who have sent in letters?
Not in any way.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
maybe just to clarify some of the terminology for folks, if I may. While this is a public meeting, meaning that all members of the public have access to it, obviously electronically due to the COVID-19 emergency that we're under, a public hearing is such that members of the public who are interested in the outcome are able to voice and express their opinions, their thoughts, pose questions, as it were, for the Planning Commission's consideration. What Mr. Snow indicated is that aspect, that public hearing aspect, has been closed. Now, it did occur for 2 prior meetings, as everyone may remember earlier on, due to COVID-19 and before these new procedures were put into legal place to allow for electronic meetings of this nature. To be fair, 2 public hearings were conducted by the Planning Commission. And the commission, if it chooses to act on this tonight, will make a recommendation to the City Council. Positively or negatively, it will go up to the City Council either way. And the City Council will publish notice and conduct another public hearing so that persons who are interested or have that opportunity to present their public comments to the City Council. So this is just step 1 of a rezoning process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seaman. Mr. Novak, are you here? If he's
Back on?
here, I will if he's here.
Larry, are you there?
I'm back.
Okay. All right. Can you pull up Mr. Novak?
Is there a Mr. Novak? Larry, do you have Mr. Novak?
Are you there, Larry?
Hello,
Mr. Novak?
I am here.
Oh, great.
Okay, in that case, we'll ask for a motion to take it off the table.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Mr. Hadden,
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich,
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Cicero,
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Yes. Go right ahead, Mr. Novak.
Good evening. Again, my name is David Novak from Barrington Consulting Group. My address is 9114 Tyler Boulevard. At the last meeting, we discussed quite a few different things. We modified the plan. I think it was somewhat suggested that we remove 4 units. We've only removed 1. We removed unit number 13, which was in the northeast corner of the property. The problem that, when we started this process, we were trying to max out under the RVG zoning, which allows for 2.5 units per acre, which would have been 36 units. We're down to 32. I think it was somewhat suggested that we go to 29. As I've mentioned in the past, when you continue to reduce the number of units, it becomes an economic driver for this project. We went back and we looked we did a quick cost analysis of, the cost of the improvements, the land, and various other things throughout for the cost of this. And the total cost of development of this project is a little over $1.9 million. When you take that and you divide $1.9 million by 36 units, you're at $52,800 per lot. Right now at 32 lots, we're at $59,500. And if you go down to 29 lots, we're at $65,600 and some dollars. And when we started this project, our goal was to stay, around the $50,000 to $55,000 per lot. Even at the 32, we're at 59. So I think that's significant. And further, when you look at our development, if you look at the Sausalito property, their requirement for open space at that time when that property was rezoned was 30%, or they were allowed to build, or the lots and streets were allowed to occupy 70%. We're at 38% open space. So we're actually exceeding the amount of open space that was required when Sausalito was constructed. We are at 2.2 units. I think when Sausalito was done, I think it was at 2 units per acre. So again, we're not far away on those numbers. And another thing is that I redid the R4 layout for the project, and my purpose of doing that was to demonstrate to the area, to the residents and so forth, and to the commission, that if this property was to remain R4 and it was developed as shown on our plan of 9 lots, which would be difficult. The only open space or treed areas that potentially could remain are just those areas of the wetlands and along Heisley Creek, and that would reduce the amount of preserved trees to 11%. So again, we're almost 4 times the amount of trees that will be saved with the project as we're proposing it versus keeping it as an R4. And again, I think even like, for instance, the distance between homes, I've read through a lot of these emails that the people have sent, and they're concerned about the distance between homes. In Sausalito, when it was developed, it was 20 feet between homes. We're at 19. So again, we're very close, in my opinion, in keeping with the character of the Sausalito and what we're proposing here. So again, if somebody has some additional questions, I've read through the staff report. We're willing to abide by the staff and the conditions, the 8 conditions outlined in the report.
Okay, Kathy, we've had a couple comments relative to the fire department. Do you want to read that letter from the chief?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been a lot of comments made with regard to the opinion or position of the fire department, so I asked for the fire chief to clarify what their position was. And he sent an email to me today that indicates the fire department has carefully reviewed the preliminary lot submittals for Glenbrook Estates, acknowledging road lengths and only one means of egress of the proposed layout for Glenbrook is not ideal, but I have carefully reviewed the revised preliminary layout of the development and am reassured by the reduction in the number of home sites. Recognizing the constraints of the site and the fact that the parcel is landlocked, the fire department is confident that we will be able to properly service the development with only 32 sites.
Thank you. Mr. Novak, I have a question.
Yes.
Are we stuck with those house styles that you proposed? Or can we look at other house styles in there? Seems to be, let me tell you why I'm asking that question. It seems to be they're awfully garage centered home styles. And I just think we ought to look at perhaps another style of home in there. Is that possible?
We could surely take a look at a different home style, but, and again, I could appreciate your comment, or at least the way you have to think about this is that the building envelopes here are 40 feet wide. I mean, there are some that are a little larger than that, but primarily they're 40 feet wide. So if you take a 40-foot wide house and you put a 2-car garage on that house, that garage is going to be somewhere around 22 feet wide. So it doesn't leave you a lot of room. You have a front door and a window or something there. So the home style is limited, but we could surely look at some alternatives, but I'm not sure that we could get away from that garage heavy look that you're describing to me.
Okay. How about if the envelope was a little bit bigger? Would that satisfy you?
Well, if the envelope was bigger, it would surely help, but I guess my question would be it's our opinion that we can't go any less than 32 units. So if 32 units is where we stay, then the only other option would be is to reduce the distance between units. And I mean, if the fire department or whomever would be concerned about that, if we went down to 15 feet, that would surely help. But again, that's up to, I'm not sure who would make that decision, but it has been my understanding that the Planning Commission has looked at this 19 feet or 18 and a half feet from gutter to gutter is what's been used recently in the city of Mentor when there's been rezoning to the RVG.
Commission members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga.
I had advised or requested that that there be some access to the property, to the southern corner of this property for the use of the residents. I don't see anything that alludes to that. Could you speak to that?
I can. We actually, at one point, we did have a walking trail back there, but there is a comment, and Kathy might be better off to find it in the staff report, but the staff was actually recommending against having access to that triangular piece.
No, I guess my opinion is that since these people have to pay for the maintenance and the insurance for these properties, they should at least have access to them. Otherwise, you're losing the justification for RVG.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we discussed this with the administration, the engineering department, the fire department, the city manager's office, the building department. Our chief building official is also oversees the flood hazard zone areas. Everyone agreed they did not want to see that stream crossed in any way. They don't think it's a safe means of access, and that keeping the open space preserved in its natural state is just as appropriate and will meet the open space standard. And for the folks that want to see the trees saved, it's another way of just leaving it again as is in its natural state.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll just state my opinion, and that is that one of the justifications for common open space for the enjoyment of the residents. And if they can't have access to it, it no longer justifies the move to RVG.
Okay. Any other comments, questions for the applicant?
Well, again, Mr. Chairman, we're not opposed to putting some type of, just because, well, let me put it this way. Just because we don't have a walking trail or we don't have some simple means of access across that creek, that does not mean that people cannot use it. But again, if the commission wants to add a ninth stipulation that we put a walking trail back to that triangular piece at the southern part of the property, if the staff and engineering and everybody else is okay with it, we'd be willing to do that.
Well, I'm going to guess that they're not okay with it because of the letter, the comments that Kathy just made.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Cook.
In the staff report, it's they talk about not having the mail kiosk at the intersection of Dove and Kingfisher because it's they want it relocated on the other side of sublot 21. So if you follow the staff report and move that over there, now in between 21 and 22 is the access to the trail. So it kind of puts you in a quandary where, you know, I'm going to say the same thing. I actually think sublots 22 and 23 should be removed. And your mail kiosk should be over there. That would look more like a center area where people could gather and use. I just think it's a little tight on 23 and 24. Now, I never was
23 and 20.
at 23, 22, I'm sorry. I do like that you took that old sublot 13 out, but for me, it's still just a little too tight there in the middle, especially if you move a mail kiosk over. That's all I have.
Mr. Novak, any comments?
First thing I would say is, personally, I like where the mail kiosk is. We could move the mail kiosk over to near the pavilion. The reason I liked where it was originally or currently shown on our plan is because it's kind of centrally located within the development. But again, if we're looking at that walking trail and you put the mail kiosk there with a few parking spaces, then again, if somebody over near the beginning of the development wanted to drive their car over there and park it there so that they can walk through that path, that may be an advantage.
But then you're in the backyard of 21 and you're up tight against 22. There's no privacy for those two lots. By moving that, it gives you more problems. And the city engineer is the one that commented on moving it. So.
Mr. Novak, comments?
Again, as far as the number of units, we can't go any lower. We're more than willing to relocate this mailbox kiosk somewhere that makes the administration and the planning commission, but I'm not sure where else we can move it.
Let me ask you another question. Let me get back to the envelope, layout of the buildings. If you reduce 22 and 23, could you reconfigure anything else in there so that you could change the building envelope to accommodate a different style house?
Ask me that again, I'm sorry.
I said, if you got rid of 22 and 23, could you reconfigure anything else in there so that you could increase the size of the building envelope? So you can change the style of the house that's going in?
It would be my opinion on Dove Lane, that would have no impact on the homes along Dove Lane. Those two lots, 22 and 23, as we show them on our plan, are 45 feet wide. We could surely take those down to 40s so that it would allow a little bit more room between 21 and 22. So you would pick up another 10 feet. But it's really not going to change the majority of these lots be 40 feet wide.
Gotcha.
But again, the problem, if you move the mail kiosk and you make the lot width smaller, it goes back to Mr. Snow's comment that you're going to have this, you're going to be forced to have these garage centric homes. So I think everything we're saying here is an end run around. You need to lose a couple more lots for us to be comfortable in how it's going to get built.
Okay, but let me say something here. If we take 22 and 23 out, that does not affect any of the homes on Dove Lane. So if we're talking about these garage-centered homes, if that's the term you want to use, it's not going to change those because that does not change the road length from where our property starts going up towards State Route 2. It doesn't change.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want a couple comments to Mr. Novak. Mr. Novak, the problem is the same problem I think I said last meeting. There's too many homes. There truly is a path to RVG here. However, the path is not to maximize the number of homes. Now we just came up with another issue where the point Mr. Varga was making, part of the area that's considered open space isn't accessible to the people that live there. Every problem we come up with is because of the number of homes. You stated you have to have 32 homes for it financially to work. It makes me believe it's just not a viable project then.
Respectively, I don't agree. Again, the zoning allows for 36. We've gone down to 32. We've tried to reconfigure this layout to accommodate the planning commission's wishes, but you also have to understand that there's also some needs or things that we need to be able to accomplish to make this project work.
I do understand that you have a unique size plot here, and I do not believe it's the type of plot where you maximize or go 4 homes less than the 36 to make RVG work here. It just is too crowded, and every comment we come up with, really the core problem is there's too many homes.
Mr. Novak, feedback?
Again, I believe Mr. Victor is also, should be online. Maybe he can speak a little bit more so to the number of units and the financial aspects and because again, part of the problem, again, by even going to public streets, that is added cost. Because when we originally started this development, we were doing private streets, we were doing a sidewalk on one side. That allows us a lot more flexibility. But now that we've have to go, now that we've conceded, which was a big concession, going to public streets, that has even made everything a little tighter. Because we have a 60-foot right-of-way through there that is not considered open space. It's non-buildable area and so forth. So that continues to add to the cost, the overall cost of the development. And from what I could gather from the board, it was very important to try to make this development look consistent with Sausalito. And that point driven to me was that we want public streets. And so we have provided public streets as part of this development. But again, Mr. Vic, the owner is here. He should be online. Maybe Larry can unmute him and allow Mr. Victor to talk.
He's unmuted.
Hello?
They're gonna turn their TVs off.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Do you have the background? Do you have the TV on or anything else in the background? Because there's a interference.
No. No, I'm in a quiet room. There's nothing around me.
It's not gonna work.
Are you connected? Do you have more than one device connected?
No.
Give it a try.
Can you? Hello?
Mr. Victor, go ahead.
Okay. I mean, we as businessmen, a lot of you guys are business. Can you hear me?
We're getting interference. It's not working. Okay, the technical crew here has advised to give it another try. Are you there, Todd?
So
Dave, are you there?
I am. Hello?
I don't think Todd is still on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since we can hear Dave, explain to me, so if you went to private streets, you'd be able to reduce this to 30 lots?
I don't know that we could get that far, George, but again, it's just we continue to add cost is my point. And
they can unmute me.
Well, I don't think we're here as an example to try to maximize your investment in this property. What we're
Hello?
trying is to do good planning.
And again, I appreciate that, and my personal opinion, and I know my opinion as far as voting on this project doesn't.
You're unmuted.
But I think that the plan is a very good plan. I think we have conceded to most of the commission's wishes. Again, reducing the number of units from 36 to 32, reducing, adding the public streets, adding the sidewalks on both sides. Like I said, even when it comes to the mailbox kiosk, that we could just put the mailbox down by the pavilion, and then we don't have the issue that everybody is talking about, the access between 21 and 22 for the path.
George, did you get your question answered?
Kind of, yes.
I reconnect. Maybe it will work now.
Go ahead and give it a shot.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we have done everything we could to make this work. And there's several other subdivisions around Menor that have the same size area as we do. I don't, and garages are in front. So I mean, I can't see, we're under the limit where we've, in my opinion, we've bent over backwards trying to make this work for you guys. And I mean, make a living here like any other businessman like you guys are. And it just won't work if we go down any lower than the 32 lots. I mean, we can't sell lots on the freeway for $7,000. We have to be in the 65 range. And you don't want this to fail, do you?
I'm ready.
I mean, you want business to succeed in Menor?
That's got to be a rhetorical question.
I mean, that's a question. I just want to be able to succeed here, and we can't do it with going under 32 lots.
Well, maybe that's not the appropriate spot to go then. I'm just speaking off the top of my head.
Well, I don't know. Do we keep paying taxes on the property then?
Up to you.
I mean, what do we do here?
I'm ready to vote. Any comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
A motion with, check how many number conditions, sorry.
8.
With the 8 conditions.
Second.
Mr. Cook?
No.
Mr. Madden?
No.
Mr. Perkovich?
No.
Mr. Thiedemann?
No.
Mr. Varga?
No.
Mr. Cicero?
No.
And Mr. Snow?
No. Joe, you want findings?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Okay. And call the roll again. We'll do findings of fact.
Mr. Cook?
You know, RVG rezones are approved pursuant to plan, and this plan falls short on a few items that I was really hoping it would have.
I will fall back on Mr. Cook's comment, same thing. I think they can match a surrounding zoning at 2.0, 2.0 units per acre. I think I'd be more comfortable, and they're just not meeting that.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes, I think the spirit of the RVG and a couple of the requirements that we were asking for, additions, weren't met and just aren't able to be met at this density. So I think that was really the detriment in my opinion.
Mr. Thiedemann.
I'm going to have to agree with my colleagues. I think we're trying to squeeze too many houses out of this property. And it just does not fit well with the surrounding community.
Mr. Varga.
As was stated, RVG, shifting to RVG is based on the quality of the plan and its ability to provide a creative and unique solution for a unique piece of property. I don't believe this is being achieved here. I don't believe there's a unique nature to the solution, and there's some issues that I have problems with. The lack of access to open areas and such, which is germane to RVG designation. Personally, I actually like the R4 plan that was presented better than the RVG.
Mr. Cicero.
I agree with everything my colleagues have said. I think I've been clear as to what bothers me with this proposal. I believe there is a path to RVG here. This plan is not that path. That path has many less homes than what is proposed here.
And Mr. Snow.
Yes, it's much too dense of a project. Thank you, Mr. Zeman. Okay, we'll move on. Larry, is number 6 here?
Larry, are you on?
Mr. Summers, are you on?
Yes, I am, and I'm praying that there's no interference.
Good. I think your prayers have been answered.
Good. Good evening, Greg Summers, Summers Real Estate Group, 8500 Station Street, Mentor, Ohio.
Right ahead.
Regarding Cardinal Meadow subdivision, here for final approval tonight. We spoke with Kathy and John regarding some modifications that were made with the new change in the RVG. There's a new setbacks that we had to deal with, but that's attributed to giving the neighbors the property and resolving those issues. The quality of the open space, the pavilion that Mr. Cook requested is going to be there. We think the plan looks good, and we've worked with all the neighbors to get through all the challenges with encroachment, and we'd like to proceed. Open to questions.
Kathy, any comments from the administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the items in particular is condition number 5, which was the minimum rear setback established on the preliminary plan that was approved with the rezone. It was originally approved at 25 feet. At the time of the preliminary plan approval, the strips of land that are now shown in gray and identified as areas that are going to be deeded to the adjoining property owners was not shown on the preliminary. And these areas are the areas of existing encroachments. And Mr. Summers has been working with the adjoining property owners to try and resolve this. And what they have concluded is they want to deed the property over. And as a result, it's left with certain parcels, certain units, I should say, with a shorter rear setback. And so I think that if the commission would like to move forward with this, I think that item number 5 needs to be adjusted to allow for reductions in the rear setbacks for those lots, for those units that, again, abut the areas of land that are going to be deeded over to the adjoining property owners.
Mr. Summers, comments?
Well, you know, we talked to Kathy earlier. we had no intention of reducing our setbacks or not meeting the original conditions, but as you guys know, there's some complexities with the encroachments. The easiest way was just basically give the neighbors the property. We are going to be a little bit under those setbacks, but I think it'll be acceptable. We paid to trim the trees. We're putting nice white fencing up. I think it's the best solution considering all the variables.
Kathy, any comments back?
The administration is comfortable with an adjustment in that setback as long as the commission is, just as long as we modify that condition.
Commissioners, questions?
Greg, you mentioned the white fence. Is there any way we can get like a cedar board-on-board fence there? The white looks really good for 1 year, and it tends to fade a lot. For me, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I like the wood fence myself. Have you started to install the white fence yet?
No, we trimmed all the trees. The tough thing about the cedar or wood fence, and we put a ton of fencing is just in our climate, it just takes such a beating, and then you have every property owner trying to, some people stay in it, some maintain it, and it degrades. The new HDP vinyl, it has like a 20-30 year warranty, and it's tough in our climate with the wood, and especially when it's
can you do that vinyl in a not such a bright white? Does it come in different colors? I don't know.
Like an off-white?
Not even like a more of a gray tone or something a little bit more that it looks like a wood fence. I mean, more healing than an earth tone. Right. Thanks, Jeff. They have different, I don't know their color palette with the fences. I'm sure they have.
I'd be glad to look into it. I don't know. I'm not sure either. Like we put some up on King Memorial and we did white, but I'd be more than glad to look into it. Something that looks good and will hold up. We're more than glad to look into something that's a little more natural looking. I'm not sure what they offer, but I'd be glad to look into it.
Good. You could work with Kathy and whatnot on that.
Yeah, no problem. I'll contact my fence guy tomorrow.
And I got one more question. When you put the sewer in, you're connecting on Rice Drive, you go into Brooks?
Yes.
That open cut down the street, are you going to repave all the Rice, do like a mill and fill across it, or are you going to just trench it? Because I remember when you guys did that one off on Village of Maple, you refinished that road that you came down. That I forget the name of it. It was that existing road, and it really looked nice, and it made those neighbors there. I think there was maybe a half a dozen of those existing houses on that street, and I remember being there, and those people were real happy about that. Is that something you're going to do for Rice?
Honestly, I haven't gotten the comments back from LCDU yet on the sewer, but whatever makes sense, whatever looks good, we're willing to do. I haven't even gotten the comments back, just being honest. So I'm not sure the dynamics of the tie-in there, but we don't want to tear it all up and leave it not appealing.
Right. Well, you know what it looks like. It just has that open cut down the side of the street there, and then it stays like that until the city has a paving, until they pave it.
I think our tie-in point is going to be right at the property line because it stubs in the existing connection, but I'm still waiting for the comments back from LCDU. And
I think the sanitary ties on to Brooks. I think you go to that manhole on Brooks and you come all the way down Rice, almost 100%.
I do not know definitively, but we'll make it right.
Just take a look at that asphalt there, and because it always looks nicer, especially when you help out the adjoining street that because you're going to be doing some construction on that street. It'd be nice to touch that up on the way by. But other than that, I like the plan, and I like the pavilion with the fireplace. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Ms. Mitchell, how would you like to restructure that rear yard setback?
We could modify the language to indicate that the rear setbacks on the lots we could even identify the unit numbers. 13 through 18 on the east side, and units 5 through 7 on the west side would have a reduced rear setback as noted on the plat. They've identified all of the setbacks that are on the plat.
Mr. Summers, is that agreeable?
Absolutely.
Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Go
ahead.
One comment. When you relocate the access path that goes from the cul-de-sac to the pavilion, you're going to rotate 13 and 12 to create that space?
Yes, whatever.
I mean, whatever
Okay.
works to be able to
Is that-
generate a pathway, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, and there is a condition that says you'll fully landscape that so that there's some privacy to it.
Absolutely.
I only have one other suggestion, and I don't know if you want to just make it part of that number 11 condition. After 12 has been rotated, I'd like you to move the pavilion just slightly to the west so that when 12 looks straight out of their property, that it's not in their line of sight and it doesn't move into number 11's line of sight. You understand what I mean?
Yes, no problem at all. We're planning on incorporating some mounding between or behind
Sure.
those properties, just to, so they have complete privacy with some of the basement excavations. So we'd be glad to make that a condition.
Yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. Just slide it slightly to the west, not a big move, but just so that it's not in the direct line of sight out of the back of site number 12.
Completely agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the
Chairman,
50.
Point of order, I don't think we untabled this yet. Do we need to untable it before we? I make a motion, we untable.
Motion to take off the table.
Second.
Mr. Cook. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Okay, now entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 15 conditions, but number 5 being modified, lots 13 through 18 on the east and 5 through 7 on the west will have a 20-foot rear setback.
Well, it's as noted on the plans,
And as noted at plan.
they're not all at the same setback.
So just number 5, rear setbacks as noted per plan.
But the 5 through 7 and 13 through 18 can have an adjusted rear setback, actually excluding 13. Sorry, 14 through 18 and 5 through 7 have adjusted rear setbacks as noted on the.
That sounds good.
And Mr. Varga's comment.
It's a slight modification to 11. Second.
Mr. Cook.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Cicero.
Yes.
Mr. Snow.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Same. Number 7, architecture review of a commercial building at 7350 Palisades Parkway. You have that? On that one?
Oh, that one's up.
No, this is
You were paying attention, Ed. Larry, you got him? Hello, Larry.
Larry, are you there?
Okay, how about number 8?
Well, I think our applicant might be there.
Yes, I'm here. It's Matt though.
Matt, can you say your name for the record?
Matt Guile.
Hey, Matt, go ahead.
So we've been back a few times, and you guys asked us to, I guess, submit some more drawings, mainly of the side of the building. I think you felt it was too plain last time, so we added some windows to the side of it, and I think that's really the only main change since last time we met.
Kathy, any comments from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, we've noted our concerns in the report. I would defer to the Planning Commission on any comments with, relative to some of the design changes that we've noted.
You have a copy of the staff report, do you not?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Relative to what Kathy just mentioned?
We're fine with everything. I think there was a comment about the bird logo that's on the side, kind of, I don't know, roof / side of the building. If we could have that, it'd be nice. It gives us, since we're sitting back off the road, it gives us just a little bit of visibility from the traffic coming off the highway.
So what does the bird mean?
It's our logo. It's Rainforest Car Wash, and the birds are our logo for the wash.
Bird's name?
His name is Petey.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we've noted that those would be recognized as signage, and while that would be reviewed separately, that will have to be addressed with regard to the sign code. And that was noted in the actual body of the report, not in the conditions, but I just want to make sure that the applicant understands that there are going to be some things with regard to the sign regulations that they're going to have to meet.
Oh, that's fair.
Okay. Don't have any bowling pins or anything, do you?
No.
Easy. Okay, commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Yeah.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to
Make a
approve.
motion. Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead, Rick.
Motion to approve with the 3 conditions.
Second?
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Cicero?
Yes.
Mr. Snow?
Yes. Okay. Matt, you're aware that you have to go before the sign group, correct?
Correct. Thank you.
Number 8, Rick Osborne Jr. for Yellow Brick Storage. Rick, you still here?
I am. Thank you. Thank you for hearing me tonight on this lot split that Yellow Brick Storage is requesting. And I'd just like to share a little bit of the history of what we've been working on, trying to attract. I think it's no secret that we've been working with Aqua Ohio to relocate to this location. And when I built Tin Man Road back in the early 2000s, we had an agreement with the city to have this pond installed at the southern terminus of Tin Man to help accommodate water from the south, as well as, you know, water needs for our site that we have here. As everyone knows, Tin Man's been pretty much built up over the years. It's gone from a huge pile of dirt now to a lot of very successful businesses there, and great businesses. We've also built Tin Man Storage, and we do have multiple other buildings that we had in place. We're on this land that has been approved by the building department. But it goes back to further, back in the mid 80s, we've had Aqua as a client, as a tenant over on Station Street, and they've been there for you know, since then, early 80s, and we've given a great relationship. with them. And they've been great to be able to stay here as a public utility in the city of Mentor. And as time has gone on, they've outgrew that site, and it's basically they needed to upgrade. And I've started in 2017 trying to find them a property, and we've gone back and forth and on one off of Industrial Parkway, again in Mentor, which didn't work out. And we finally came up to this site, and we never thought the pond would ever be an issue, but it really has posed a problem of what happens to the pond, I guess, down the road. And so when we really got into it, we signed a letter of intent back in it was in August of 2019, and it spelled out that the pond would be dealt with in one fashion or another. Either they could use the pond, or the pond would go to the city. I had a meeting, number of meetings with different city officials, and it was always something that was left up in the air of who's going to take care of this pond. And I think we always felt that the pond should be dealt with the city, by the city eventually. It never was really pushed as a problem, just because it never came in.
The city deal with it.
And so recently we signed a purchase agreement with Aqua to buy this, and it was signed in February of 19, after a few years of looking for a good site. And the pond still became an issue. So what we're asking now is to split parcel A as shown on your diagram, and to really, we'll keep the pond as far as in Yellow Brick's name, but we really want to continue to pursue our negotiations with Aqua, and we'd like to, continue to have them stay here in the city. So that's what we're proposing today, and I really appreciate your hearing this.
Okay, Kathy, any comments from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, Ken Filipiak, our city manager, is on as an attendee and would like to speak on behalf of the administration. Ken, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, members of the commission, Mr. Chairman. I would want to stress this evening that the city would be opposed to the lot split for a number of reasons. We did take a close look at the history of this, and the construction of the detention facility was really proceeded no differently than most projects we would do today. It was a requirement at the time to allow for the construction of Thiedemann. It was intended then and continues today to capture the flow that was contained on that site. The exact language from the 2000 approval said that if needed, the construction of the detention facility shall be a part of the improvement plan, which it was. Our concern here is that if it's separated from the main parcel, that it will become an orphan parcel. And essentially, if it goes delinquent at some point in the future, it really would have no development value and have absolutely no value to anyone else going forward. It would probably end up without someone to take care of the property, and that's not something that the city is interested in inheriting at that point in time. I would also point out that we had discussions with, this may be a moot point because we had discussions as recently as today with representatives from Aqua, Ohio, who indicated that they no longer have an interest in this property for development. So this may be a moot point.
Okay. Rick, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
The lot split's in violation of 3 statutes in the code of the city of Mentor. How do we reconcile that?
Well, I don't think you can. I think to create a nice parcel for someone to come to the city and put a new business or property or a new building on. You sometimes need to make some types of variances like that, especially at the end of a cul-de-sac like this. It's hard to get every parcel right. I think the acreage allows you to do that and to approve that. And even if it's conditioned, I definitely respect Mr. Kupiak's comment related to Aqua, and he's absolutely correct. But I would more than gladly propose that it was stipulated that if Aqua went to this site, that it would only be approved for that, and not for any other reason.
I guess I'm still at a quandary about why I'm in violation of 3 statutes in the city of Mentor with this split.
I don't have any other excuses other than what I stated.
Okay. Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
Just one question. I think it was answered, but I just want to, for my own clarification. Why split it? Why is this parcel less desirable in terms of its utility to a tenant or to a new owner with it broken out like this, subdivided? Why is this necessary?
I think I could answer that, but in general, it's primarily because they don't want the responsibility of having to maintain the pond if they ever were to have to maintain it or do anything with it. And so they don't know that unknown, and any buyer is not going to realize that unknown. And so it's hard for someone to buy something like that without knowing what that cost might be. So that's the primary reason.
I have a follow-up question with the city. It's a theoretical, so no one can really be held to the answer. But my question would be, if that lot was developed, could they also use that detention basin for their own use?
Yes.
Okay, so that would actually be an advantage.
It is.
Right. Thank you.
Pleasure of the commission. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with no conditions?
Second.
Mr. Cook?
No.
Mr. Haddon?
No.
Berkovich?
No.
Mr. Thiedemann?
No.
Mr. Varga?
No.
Cicero? Cicero?
Oh, no, sorry.
Mr. Snow?
No. You have it.
That darn mute button.
The mute button gets every time.
That's the director's report. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So long, everyone.
Thank you.